Hello and welcome to our 10th Mod Tool tutorial video. I'm Dragon and in this video I'm going to tell you about theaters, specifically how to set up theater cells, theater actions and theater terrain. Let's start with theater cells. By clicking this button here, I am opening the theater cells editor. And here we have the cell list. By clicking this button here, create new cell, I can add new cells to my theater. And these are very important because these are tiles on which our military units are moving, standing and fighting and dying in your battle theater during the game. So let me select the first cell on the list here, and now I have opened the individual cell editor here. As you can see, you can name your cell, for example cell number 1, and you can select the icon for your cell. In this case, let's go with desert icon. Underneath icons there is the cell rotation allowed ticker. If enabled, the cell can be rotated. If disabled, the cell is in fixed position. And here you can choose from this drop-down cell models. And as you can see, we have a lot of cell models here already prepared for you. And for example, in this case, to use the desert, I will scroll down and choose Theater of War Flat Ground Sand cell. And each theater cell can have more than one model. So I simply need to press this button here to add it to the actual list of models available for this cell number 1. You can of course remove it from this list. And here you can select the cell not affecting on shooting. And you can select, for example, the second cell here on the list and add it to the list of cells not being affected by shooting from this cell. Because those are the tiles on which our army units will stand, we can exclude their effect on our units when they are standing on the selected cell here. And underneath we have the list of all our army units that are set up in our army units editor. And here we can set up some important things. First of all, we can select this ticker here or deselect it to determine whether movement on this cell is possible for those units. As you may imagine, choppers, flying units, will usually have their movement possible on every cell. But infantry, for example, can be prohibited from moving on a water cell. But in this case we have the desert, so infantry will be allowed to move on it. And when the unit is standing on this cell, it can be modified by bonuses and penalties to its accuracy, attack, defense and speed. And those you can set up here. So for example, I believe that infantry on desert will be slowed down, but it will have increased accuracy, because there is nothing much that can obscure their view. And that is also true for our choppers, so even bigger bonus to their accuracy. What is also important is the curve editor here, accuracy due to the distance. And similarly to our accuracy due to the distance editor here in our army units that we have covered before, in theater cells editor, this editor here also affects the accuracy of our units shooting or firing from this cell. So for example, in this case, when standing on the cell, the accuracy will be modified by 0, so not at all. And when the distance to another cell to the target is 100, the accuracy will be reduced by -25. And that is how you set up all other cells here. So let me do it real quickly now. And now as you can see, we have 3 perfectly good cells: desert, forest and mountains. And also here underneath the create new cell button, we have some important settings for our theater actions. This is the theater action cooldown input field, in which we can set up the number of days we need to wait before we use another theater action. In this case, let's set up 15 days. And also here we have the move to reserve time input field, which determines how long a unit will take to go to reserves. Let's set it up at 5 days. And by pressing this button here, I have created random theaters already in our provinces. And why you have created those cells here? Let me go to Theater Terrain Editor and show you. Here we have the list of all our terrains: desert, grassland, forest and mountains. Terrains are created here in the Terrain Editor, like I have showed you in one of the previous videos. So let's go back to the Theater Terrain Editor. And let me, for example, select here mountains. And here, to the right, we have our Mountains Terrain Editor, and when the theater occurs on a province with the mountains terrain, the theater will be generated using those cells here on the right. So we have to move some of the cells here. This is the mountains terrain, so mountain cell should be used here. And the theater has a number of cells in it. And here we can set the minimal count of mountain cells for this theater type and the maximum count of mountains in this theater type. So let me, for example, choose that the minimal number of mountain cells will be, for example, 50, because this is the mountain terrain, so there should be a lot of mountains. And maximum count 100. But I believe that we can also have forest in our mountains. So let me select and move this cell here, input our minimal number of forest cells, for example 10 to 50. And as you can see, first you have to input maximal count and then minimal count, because the minimal count can never be higher than the maximal count. And you have to create a collection of cells used in each terrain type. That way, each theater can be custom made for the specific terrain type in your province. So these two simple tools, Theater Cells and Terrain Theater Cells Editor, and also Terrain Editor, allow you to create some unique terrains for your theaters. And also customize them so that each cell affects your units in a specific way. But when you are fighting in a theater during the game, you also can issue special orders or theater actions for your units and armies. So let me go to the Theater Actions editor here and show you how to create theater actions. This simple editor allows you to simply create new action and select it. And here, as usual, you can input your name for your action. You can select the icon. As you can see, it has changed here. You can select the action duration time, so how long effects will be in place. Let's, for example, say that for 10 days. You can choose the action cooldown number, so how much time has to pass before you use this action again. In this case, let's go with 25 days. And the action simply puts into place some effects: province, country, country and province, to country, general or army group effects. So if you click any of those edit buttons, you will open the configurator of effects, and with your pre-created effects in the effect namespace, you can set up here various modifiers, for example for your army fighting in the theater. You can also choose which political systems are required for this action to happen during the theater. And here also is a separate conditions setup window in which you can set up specific conditions for this action to be able to happen during the theater. And also you can hide theater actions so that they can be later revealed, for example through generals, because some actions can only happen if the specific general with specific trait or perk is present during the battle theater. And that is basically how you set up different theater actions for your battle theaters. There is also this Theater Units editor here, in which you can scale up models, your custom models, added to your mod. And that's basically it when setting up theaters and their theater actions. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.